It's Sunday night football in the desert as Antonio Pierce and the Raiders go for back-to-back home wins. Will Davante Adams return to dominance in the new era as he battles a ball-hawking Jets defense? It's all ahead on the Silver and Black Show starting now. All the stars are out for Sunday Night Football. NBC's Tony Dungy joins the show today. Plus, for the first time this season, we sit down with All-Pro receiver Davante Adams, and former Raider linebacker Kirk Morrison stops by to talk all things defense. Welcome into the Silver and Black Show, everybody. I'm Theoharis. Raider Nation is high-stepping into Week 10 as the Raiders are now 1-0 in the Antonio Pierce, Champ Kelly era. Yes, it's only one win, but the euphoria we saw in that locker room after the game represents hope, and that's something there wasn't a lot of 2 weeks ago. Everything just feels a little lighter, and the question now is, could that dominating 30-6 win over the Giants be the first step in building a new culture, one where all pro players are put in positions to make all-pro plays? Whether it was Max Crosby's 3 sacks, Josh Jacobs' 2 touchdowns, or the rookie Aiden O'Connell's solid performance, Week 9 gave us a glimpse of what could be. Now it's up to the Raiders to show us that winning football is what will be going forward. And it all starts with the 4-4 Jets on Sunday Night Football. Tony Dungy will be part of NBC's coverage, Football Night in America. Coach Dungy, it is good to see you on the Silver and Black Show.
Well, thank you, Amber. And I'll tell you what, all of a sudden, this game has some juice, it has some energy, and you brought up some points that we'll be talking about on Sunday night. A new era in Raider football, and it did look impressive.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. And you saw Antonio Pierce when you were coaching the Colts. They played the Giants. You knew him as a player. He actually had a good game back in 2006. But what was your first impression as far as him being a head coach, what you saw last week from Antonio Pierce?
Well, when you come in an interim situation, there's not a lot you can do. You can't bring in a whole new offense and a whole new defense. But what you can do as a head coach is emphasize what's important. And I thought he did that. You saw the energy, you saw the physicality, the hustle, the effort. And then you saw a couple of other things. Hey, we're going to get the ball to Josh Jacobs. We're going to run him 20 times and expect 100 yards from him. We're going to get Hunter Renfrow back involved in the pass offense. And we're going to feature Davante Adams. I saw those 3 things right away, and you could see the energy in that locker room.
Yeah, he said I was going to get the ball in my playmaker's hands, and he tried to do that for sure against the Giants. When you're evaluating a head coach, how much value do you place on their ability to relate to their players versus their ability to implement an offensive or defensive scheme?
Being a head coach really is about getting everyone on the same page and getting everyone to buy into the way you want to do it. There are plenty of ways to win X's and O's, and plays. I always thought and was taught that plays don't win games. Players win games. So you get the players involved, do what they do best, but more than anything, you get everybody working together, then you have a chance. And that's what we saw last Sunday.
Yeah, and then also kind of lost in this is Patrick Graham in the defense. He has right now the best Raider scoring defense since back in 2006, but the run game coach continues to be the Raiders' Achilles heel. What do you see from this Raiders defense on film?
Well, I saw more activity last week, and that's a plus. Now, they can rush the passer. They can put pressure on you. Their job and what's going to happen is to do just what we're showing here. Can they stop that run and put people in passing situations? If they do, they've got the unit to get after the passer and to cause havoc. But if I'm the New York Jets, I'm running Breece Hall a lot, and I'm not putting my quarterback in jeopardy. So this is going to be the thing the Raiders are going to have to do this week, stop the run early.
Okay, so from a defensive scheme, do the Raiders have the luxury of just stacking the box then against Breece Hall and not really worrying about Zach Wilson, especially based on what we saw in the performance against the Chargers? Not much of a passing game.
Well, they're best when they run the ball, and you want to put the ball in Zach Wilson's hand. They've got Garrett Wilson, they've got some receivers, but he's got to prove it. He's got to show you that he can beat you. I would, if I were the Raiders, I would stack that box and I would say, we're going to dare you to throw. We're going to force you to throw, and that's going to play into our hands.
Yeah, something tells me that's what we just might see, Coach. On the flip side, as good as this Jets defense is, they've given up a lot of rushing yards. Do you think there's an opportunity for Josh Jacobs to get something going?
I absolutely do. And I'm probably going to say it on Sunday. The team that who's going to win, does Breece Hall had the most rushing yards, or does Josh Jacobs have the most rushing yards in this game? And I think they have to attack the Jets on the ground. We saw what the Jets pass rush can do. They did a great job getting after Justin Herbert, even though, the Chargers won the game. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to throw. You've got to make some hay on the ground and keep that front four honest.
As far as other offensive weapons, I'm sure you're aware there is an all-pro receiver by the name of Davante Adams on this team. We're still looking for him in key situations the past couple of weeks. How do the Raiders get Davante the ball more?
Well, you have to make a commitment to do it. Yes, teams are going to double him. You've got to figure out ways to move him around and get the ball to him. I would start out this game by putting him on the left side of the offense and see if Sauce Gardner goes over there. If Sauce Gardner doesn't travel with him and stays on his defensive left side, then you've got an advantage. So I think that's the first thing I would do, is find out how the Jets are going to play him. But Davante Adams knows how to beat coverage. He knows how to get open. They can get the ball to him if they make a concerted effort.
Yeah, he's coming up on the show in just a little bit. Can't wait to talk to him. But Antonio Pierce wasted no time in naming Aiden O'Connell the starter going forward. He was very decisive. What does a vote of confidence like that do for a rookie quarterback's development?
Oh, that definitely helps you. And that was a little bit of a surprise to me. But I'll tell you what I believe happened. Antonio Pierce, he's there on defense, and he's watching every day. And he's watching Aiden O'Connell with the scout team and with the backups and seeing what he can do. And I'll tell you what, from listening to all the defensive guys, they were impressed. They were ready to go. They felt like, hey, we've got a good player out there. We're going to be just fine. And it turned out to be the case. So I think that gives that rookie a shot in the arm. Hey, they believe in me. Let's go to work.
Yeah, first press conference, we're going to go with Aiden. He was very simple about it.
Yeah,
Robert Saleh was in a little bit of a different position. When he was asked about his quarterbacks this week, he said, I plead the fifth. When he was asked, why not go with Trevor Siemian over Zach Wilson, which makes you believe maybe it's political. But as a head coach, how do you handle a tough quarterback situation like that? And what would you do in that specific situation with what's happening with Zach Wilson?
You have to decide who gives you the best chance to win, and you've got to go with that person. Now, the Raiders felt like, going back to last week, it was O'Connell, and we've got to step up and go with him. The Jets, you've got to make a decision, and you've got to make it very, very black and white. And you've got to say, this is our guy. If Zach Wilson's our guy, you got to stick with him and be 100% behind him. If not, you have to make the change. You can't waffle. You can't say, you can't take the fifth. You've got to say, this is our quarterback, and that's what we're going to do.
All right, well, Coach Dungy, thanks so much for making some time for us. Safe travels out to Las Vegas, and we'll see you Sunday Night Football, NBC. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, and looking forward to it. And all of a sudden, this is a big game for the Jets if they want to be playoff contenders, big game for the Raiders. If they really love Coach Pierce and they want him to be their coach, we're going to see that show on Sunday night.
Well put. We'll see you soon, Coach. Thanks. All right. Coming up on the Silver and Black Show, will Davante Adams return to dominance now under this new regime? We're talking to him next. The Silver and Black Show is brought to you by Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Allegiant, the official airline of the Las Vegas Raiders. Low fares, nonstop flights. Book now only at Allegiant.com. 1800, the best taste in tequila and official partner of the Raiders.
O'Connell over the middle. He finds Hunter Renfrow, and Renfrow spinning inside.
Well done by Aiden O'Connell, recognizing blitz and attacking.
O'Connell, Renfrow again. Renfrow inside the 5 and down at the 3. O'Connell wants to take a deep shot, and he's got Trey Tucker out there. Tucker diving, and he makes the catch inside the 10. First and goal, Las Vegas.
He did a really good job too now. Get rid of the ball. He realized from week one, his first start to now this week, can't hold on to the ball in the National Football League. There's a clock. And he'll get better and better at that internally, but I think the guys up front really took pride in two things, right? Running the ball and protecting the quarterback, and that was our big emphasis throughout the week.
For the full interview of Antonio Pierce with JT the Brick, visit Raiders.com or the official Raiders YouTube page. Here with Raiders All-Pro receiver Davante Adams. And Davante, those post-game images after the game, it was just pure joy, pure elation. Describe the camaraderie and the emotion behind what the world saw after that Giants win.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it was. A lot of emotion, a lot of, a lot. It's been a lot around here lately, so it was just a kind of a little bit of an exhale. We put a lot of work in over the course of a short week to, get our thing right, to get ready to go, and it's just good and gratifying. It's a really gratifying feeling to put in all that work after everything, all the distractions, and be able to go out there and get a home victory, protect home field, and do it the right way. So it was definitely a good feeling.
What was really cool is that we got a glimpse of what this team is capable of. What allowed you guys to take such a huge collective step forward as a team? Everybody played better against the Giants.
It's a mindset. Once you can, kind of transform your mindset and go from, some negative things that are happening, just make it all positive and rally together and play for one another. That's the result you get when you have a, type of roster that we do. We have a really strong team, and but at the end of the day, it's not about how good you are, it's about how good you play. So we go out there and we take care of business like we did last week, we'll be all right.
Antonio Pierce definitely has the soul of a Raider. It seems like it's just in him. I know you're an
100%.
East Palo Alto guy.
Yeah.
When you hear your interim head coach in his opening press conference say it's Raider Nation versus everybody, how did that make you feel?
Well, I mean, it's a familiar feeling. It's basically the way we talk around here. So he just kind of echoed the thoughts that we have in our locker room and on every floor in this building. And that's kind of the way it's always been. And especially with the what we've been going through as a team, it's not easy to overcome some of those things. So we all we got, but we all we need.
Well, I tell you, I think you're all that Josh Jacobs needs. I saw you out there blocking for him, looking like you were ready to run through a wall.
Yeah.
How has this energy just been contagious?
I mean, we last year we definitely didn't win as many games as we wanted to, but we had a lot of opportunities to, put it on tape and to go out there for one another and do things that would make us feel good about going into the next game. So regardless of the calls, regardless of whatever, it was just a mentality that we had, collectively. And obviously, getting some of the coverages I've been getting, it's just a way for me to make sure I'm staying engaged in the game and doing everything that I can for my team to still get the ball in the end zone. So at the end of the day, whether it's me catching and running it in or blocking for Jacoby or Josh Jacobs, whoever it is, is the ultimate goal is scoring. So, I'm going to do whatever I have to do.
Josh told us after the game that he was asked what runs he likes, and then they actually showed up in the game plan. How has Bo Hardegree been collaborative with the All-Pros like Josh and yourself?
I mean, he's a joy to work with, man. He's very open. He's a really smart football mind. He's obviously learned from Josh and other branches since he's been doing this, and it's been a minute. So, the ability to work with a coach like what I have over the past, really since last year, but directly with him these past couple weeks has been a lot of fun because he's asked a million questions of things that I want to run, similar to what he did with Josh in the run game. So, for me, it's just going out, running the routes, getting a good feel for what I want to do and being able to give him something, legit feedback so that, he can have a good idea of what he wants to call in the game, based off our comfort level. So when you can work like that, it makes it really constructive.
It must be nice to feel really invested in the game plan, because then you feel responsibility, right? Because you said, this is what I want to do.
100%.
Now you're trusting me to do it, so I better go out and do it.
Well, yeah, but it's like that gratifying thing I was telling you. It's nothing like telling the quarterback or, the play caller, throw this or call this, and then it works out.
It works.
It makes everything make sense in the end.
Now you face the Jets. It's a defense full of playmakers. What do you see from Jordan Whitehead, Sauce Gardner? A lot of people are excited to see this matchup with you.
Yeah, man, they got a lot of playmakers and some ballers over there, that's for sure. Sauce came in, last year and boomed on the scene, and did his thing, and he's continued to have success, which is, it's more fun, and it makes it more fun for me in the end, because typically that means it's going to be less doubles if they trust their guys out there. So anytime I have opportunity to go one-on-one, with a good corner, it's going to be a good time out there.
We've seen you do it before. You've spoken a lot about your commitment to greatness. What does greatness look like for you?
Greatness looks like, for me personally, I want to go out there and take control of every snap, no matter what the route is. I pride myself on going and, having that intentionality to win every rep. And for me, it's not just about catching the ball, but it's about the tape. At the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers said the reason why he started throwing me the ball, early in my career was because, he'd be throwing to Randall or throwing to Jordy over here or Jared Boykin, and he'd look at the tape and he'd just see me continue to get open. So that he implanted that early to where, in my mind, I'm like, a win isn't just catching the ball. A win is what you're putting on tape, because it's getting noticed, whether it's by the D coordinator, your coaches, or, your own teammates. So for me, I just go out there and try to give it all I got every single time. And, if you do the right thing enough, the numbers will come.
It's also about getting the ball in your hands, though, too. And we like to see the ball. We do like to see the ball in your hands. We know that the last game, and the last two games even, there seemed to be a more concerted effort with targets to get the ball in your hand. But we also saw the offensive weapons around you really start to emerge, whether it was Josh Jacobs or Jacoby or Michael Mayer. How will the emergence of them help you?
Yeah, because at this point, these teams are saying, if we stop 1-7 from doing his thing, we'll stop them from winning at least, even if other people go and do it. So if we, go out there and do what we did last game, where, Trey will come over the top and make a play downfield, or, another guy will make a play, it'll obviously free it up, and it'll make them feel less comfortable just shutting 17 down and letting everybody else do it. So, we work together in this, and, at the end of the day, I still got to go and make it work, no matter what the coverages are toward me, and still go out and produce.
You look at that safety and say, you can get off me now? Look what Trey just did.
That's what, or stay over here and keep letting that happen.
Or keep letting that happen all day long.
Yep.
You mentioned Aaron Rodgers. Just one last question. You guys did accomplish so much together. I'm sure it's going to be nice to see him on the sideline on Sunday night. When you work with Aidan O'Connell, what potential do you see from the rookie, and what might you have learned from Aaron Rodgers and knowledge from a great quarterback like that you can help share with AOC?
Well, I learned, probably half of what I know about this game from Aaron over the course of, almost a decade. So it'd be hard to pinpoint one thing, but, as it pertains to Aidan, he's just got a different confidence for somebody who, he wasn't a first-round draft pick and had all the tape and had all this hype coming in. So to be able to have that type of true confidence that he does, and be able to command the huddle the way that he does out there on the field, it's impressive. And I told him, we left out of the game, and I was like, man, you got a different type of swag out there. I don't even know, it's not something that looks sexy, and he's not trying to be cool out there, but you can feel it. And like I said, the way he talks to us in the huddle, and just his comfort level out there in general is very Aaron Rodgers-esque. So I know I got in some trouble last year with trying to compare quarterbacks, but that's not at all what I'm doing.
We're not comparing AOC to Aaron Rodgers just yet. One's a future Hall of Famer, but
one's a cemented Hall of Famer, and one got a lot of work to do, but he's on the right track for sure.
Well, we look forward to seeing that connection between you two coming up on Sunday Night Football. It is a new beginning, and it's nice to see everybody so light. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome back. The Raiders held the Giants to just 6 points last week while forcing 2 turnovers and sacking the quarterback 8 times. This defense is also quietly rising in NFL defensive rankings in key categories. To talk about it, let's say hello to former Raider linebacker Kirk Morrison. Always good to talk a little ball with you, Kirk. And before we talk about this defense, I just want to get your opinion on Antonio Pierce. What makes him so good at rallying the troops?
Well, it goes back to when Antonio was a player. He was always a leader. He was a captain of his teams that he's played for, whether it was in Washington, obviously most known for being the middle linebacker for the New York Giants that defeated the New England Patriots back in 2007. To me, that's who Antonio Pierce has always been. And now that he's in a leadership role in terms of the head coaching position, guys are going to play for him because he's speaking not from the mind of a coach, but from the mind also of a former player. And he's coached at different levels. He's coached in high school, he's coached in college, and in the National Football League. He understands the pulse of a football team. And that's the reason why I think the Raiders we saw last week had an unbelievable game, because he was able to pull from the energy of the football team that's been really waiting for a while to just unleash and just play free.
Yeah, and that energy led to the pass rush really coming alive. They had 8 sacks against the Giants. Meanwhile, we watched that Chargers-Jets game. Zach Wilson was on his back most of that game. What are you expecting from the Raiders' front seven this Sunday?
Well, I think number one, you have to continue to use your strengths. And right now, the strength of the Raiders has been that front seven, the guys who are getting after the quarterback, creating havoc. And that's what you want to do, whoever is the quarterback, whether it's Zach Wilson, whether it's Trevor Siemian, whoever the Jets decide to go out and play quarterback for them. The Raiders have to continue to build and make things uncomfortable, right? Their head coach, Robert Saleh for the Jets, talks about how they embarrass quarterbacks. Well, this will be the weekend for the Raiders defensive front to embarrass Zach Wilson or whoever's that quarterback, continue to do what they've been good at.
Well, that performance against the Chargers was pretty embarrassing from from a subjective standpoint. Quietly, this Raiders defense, they've become ball hawks, and everyone talks about the Jets secondary. But when you look at the numbers, the Jets and the Raiders have the same amount of interceptions. Both have 8. That's tied for top 4 in the NFL. Who do you think wins the turnover battle in this game?
Well, you would hope to be the home team, and I think that you hope that the Raiders can continue to take the ball away, like you mentioned, Amber. A lot of it has to do with, I think, second year into Patrick Graham's defense. Guys are not only in the right positions to make plays, but the thing about it, I don't know if the confidence was there a year ago because everybody was just trying to do their job. And now it's not about doing your job. It's doing your job and now go make the play. And I'm seeing more of that from a lot of the secondary players. I think the addition of Marcus Peters has given those guys in the back end a lot of confidence to go out there and take some chances, and then just depend on the guys on the opposite side too. A lot of complementary, I think, on the other side when you have a rushing attack like we saw last week in the win, that you're able to continue to play knowing that, hey, we don't have to play perfect, but let's try to create some more opportunities for our offense. And I thought the Raiders definitely did that against the Giants last week.
And you mentioned the rushing attack. Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall, we have 2 of the best young rushers in the game right there, but also 2 run defenses that have both struggled at times. Who do you think has the edge here in the run game?
Wow, that's tough because I'm not going to discredit that Jets rushing defense, one of the best in the league for a reason. And so I think the bigger question about all of this is that which running back will get the most opportunities, right? Because I look at, hey, when you have a guy like Davante Adams and Jacoby Myers and Hunter Renfrow, we saw Michael Mayer get some things going. I look at the Raiders may have more of an advantage with their skill position players. And so you may get less carries for a guy like Josh Jacobs, or will it be about, hey, which defensive line is going to wilt? Which one is going to get be pushed back a little bit? And the mentality that we saw from Antonio Pierce, the head coach, was that we're going to get it out the mud. We're going to go out and get great push up the middle. We're going to win and be dominant along the front. And so that to me is going to be a big question mark for which team defensive front really can stand tall. And if the Raiders are able to run the football, I would think that they would have the advantage on the opposite side to be able to stop a guy like Breece Hall.
And also just get out to an early lead, Kirk, because we saw what happened with Saquon Barkley. They had to abandon the run because the Raiders had the early lead. Let's stay with the defense there, though, talking about Robert Spillane. I mean, how about the news that he broke his hand in Detroit? He left the game. He had surgery the next day, and then he comes back. He plays against the Giants and leads the team and tackles. What has this veteran added to this defense?
Well, I mean, look, he comes from the football background of playing with the Steelers, which is, we already know about when it comes to football royalty, but to be able to break your hand and then have surgery Tuesday, and it's like, hey, you can play, it's just whatever your pain tolerance is. Well, he didn't want to let his guys down. I think more importantly, he didn't want to let his linebackers coach Antonio Pierce down. So to me, he was going to play regardless, and he's been playing well I know he's got a couple of interceptions he wish he can have back, because definitely, or more interceptions, a couple of drops from him, but he's been playing great. He's picked the ball off. He's made some plays in the backfield. He's done a lot for a team in which they needed linebacker help. They needed consistent play at linebacker, and Robert Spillane has done that for the Raiders this year. I'm not surprised at all that he played last week, and I think it's just the spirit of what this team looks like now moving forward.
Yeah, that's that toughness we keep talking about. Amik Robertson is another player that has been a lot of fun to watch on this defense. You retweeted this on X, or re-X'd it, or whatever it's called right now. He's the first Raider defender to have at least 1 sack and 2 interceptions in back-to-back seasons since 06-07. Kirk Morrison did it. That was pretty cool. What has he added to this defense?
You know, I always go back with Amik Robertson back when he was at Louisiana Tech, and I remember talking to then LSU head coach Ed Orgeron, and I talked about, hey, why didn't you recruit a guy like Amik Robertson? He said, we did. He said Amik Robertson was a 5-star type of player, but we looked at height instead of looking at heart. And that is what I always took from the conversation, that Amik Robertson was always a 5-star type of player. He just needed the opportunity. And when the Raiders drafted him, I said, man, the Raiders got a steal on a guy who plays with nothing but heart, tenacity. He plays the Raider way. I'm not surprised at what he's been able to do. And he's had those opportunities, and he's made the most of them. He's been ball hawking. But more importantly, I think a guy like Marcus Peters, I mentioned earlier, has really given him more confidence, and you can really see him take off this year.
Yeah, what he lacks in height, though, he makes up for with that vertical jump we saw in the end zone against the Packers. How about the defensive tackle position? Adam Butler, he seems to be emerging in that position, but the guys that play there the most, Bilal Nichols and Jerry Tillery, what do you think of them?
Well, the thing about it is now they compete, and that's all you ask. They want to be able to get some push. When you talk about the Raiders, you're talking about Max Crosby, obviously Tyree on the opposite side, and then you're thinking about, okay, the Malcolm Kuntz, and everybody's talking about the outside rushers. Nobody talks about the inside part of the Raiders rush. And I think that's been huge for them this year, that those guys are really starting to step up. They're playing, they're rotating. It's not just one guy, it's multiple guys. And they got that little that hockey line change that I'm loving, that guys are just rotating through and they're creating havoc. And you really saw last week, was like really the week that they showed out, and they show that, hey, we're just as much as part of this pass rush. And to see them go out and get a couple sacks and really cause havoc in that backfield against the Giants, hopefully that transitions well again this week going against the Jets. But definitely it's a much different look in production that you're getting from that defensive tackle.
I like what you said, the hockey line change. I'm going to use that one because that really can wear out offensive linemen if you keep bringing in fresh legs there. The Raiders have the 3rd toughest schedule in the second half of the season. Overall, what do you expect to see down the stretch here?
Well, I think that a lot can be said about what happened last week versus the Giants. You got a victory, but you did it in a way in which we hadn't seen before, meaning that you blew a team out that honestly I felt you should have blew out. But I thought it was because it was a culture, it was a philosophy, it was an emphasis on doing what? Running the football, making some big plays in the passing game, playing stout defense and stout in special teams. So I look at the tough schedule, but I look at, is this the same Raiders team that we saw in the first, 5, 6, 7 weeks of the season? This is a totally different team. And so I look at a totally different team going against a schedule that some may say may be difficult, but I feel like the Raiders set themselves up perfectly, especially with a couple of games against the Chiefs. They'll be playing against the division rivals, obviously, the Chargers and the Broncos. But I look at this schedule and I say, this is a much different team going into this schedule, and you have more confidence than maybe you did 3 or 4 weeks ago.
It's definitely going to be fun to watch. Hey, Kirk, it's always good to catch up with you. I'll see you around, my friend.
Thanks, Amber. Anytime.
All right, coming up here on the Silver and Black Show, and one last thing, could the Raiders be back on brand? We'll tell you why the Raiders' newfound swag is quite nostalgic next. The Silver and Black Show has been brought to you by Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Allegiant, the official airline of the Las Vegas Raiders. Low fares, non-stop flights. Book now only at Allegiant.com. Chevron with Techron gives you unbeatable cleaning and mileage. Chevron, together ahead. Time now for one last thing. culture shift is a buzz phrase in the NFL, and the Raiders' post-game elation on Monday might just be the beginning of one. But for Max Crosby in particular, this shift appears to be back to an identity that already exists. He's always embodied that Raider of old mystique, and to see him come on Raiders game day last week looking like this was refreshing. Shirt off, tattoos out, smoking a stove, and as the kids say, giving zero cares in the world. This is who Max Crosby always has been. Grimy, unbridled, and unapologetic, kind of like the old Raiders. And now he has an interim head coach in Antonio Pierce who personifies that exact same grittiness.
I think it starts up front. It starts with your O-line and D-line. It's a mentality. It's about taking somebody's will. And then you get the tee off like you saw, like we did with the quarterback getting 8 sacks. So it goes hand in hand, man. Listen, you know this. All the great teams, they got somebody up front on both sides that put fear in your heart.
You couldn't help but smile watching the Raiders post-game celebration after the Giants win. The whole image was just so Raider, a throwback to a time when nonconformist, misfit men from the dark side were allowed to be themselves, and they wreaked havoc on the NFL. This year's lot will definitely be tested, and we'll see if success is sustainable. But at least for 1 week, the Raiders were back on brand, doing it the Raider way. That'll do it for us. It's Jets-Raiders Sunday Night Football kickoff set for 5:20 Pacific from Allegiant. We're going to see you right back here after the game for Raiders Game Day. Have a great weekend, everyone.